If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you.
Good evening. Welcome, world. And welcome back to another episode of Politics, Economics, the Struggle to Survive in America. I'm your host. My name is Jerrald President. And today what I'm going to be talking about, I'm talking about the central banks and how the central banks and the global banking system controls every aspect of your life. Now, for those that might want to say that, that's a conspiracy theory and where you get this type of information from, I want you to always to understand. In politics and on politics, economics, and the struggle to survive in America, I'm never going to give you an opinion. I'm only giving you my perspective and my perception of how the entire system functions. Now, this information comes from the Federal Reserve Bank, the banking system for the United States of America, which coordinates with the Bank of International Settlements and also the Bank of London on how to, stick it to the citizens and to make sure that the corporations and governments are flush with fake money. And when I say fake money, I mean money that's created out of thin air. Now, that is not from me making that up. That's exactly how they say money is created. They make it out of thin air. You understand? So I'm going to play you a little snippet of, it was a show on CNBC. And what they was explaining was how the central bankers basically control and run everything and how we are their slaves. Now, this has been a very long operation by the people that's in Europe, the white supremacists, which is why I always start off all my shows with, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else will only confuse you. Well, we're constantly confused because we really think that, money just is there. And we don't understand the concept of how these people have put a noose around our necks, which is why we're in perpetual debt. And we never can figure out, well, how am I going to ever get from under this albatross? So what I'm doing, I just want you to just listen. And listen closely, because what these people do, they kiki. They kiki and they laugh. And they think it's funny. They really think it's funny because they're in suits. Majority of the population don't wear suits to go to work. But these guys in suits, and they're working for global corporations that's owned by these same central banks that's giving them the capital. Capital, I mean currency, money, dollars, ducats, dividends, ends, greenbacks. They give them this currency to continue to function. Now the currency is digital, which is why they're going around the world trying to push everybody on this, electronic transfers. That's just a way to shut you off the grid. That's going to be on another episode. But right now we're just going to discuss, and I'm going to dissect how the global banking system is controlled by a small group of men and women with every different nationality and complexion continue to use the Trojan horse by the Roman Empire, which is the Vatican, by the imperial power, England and the United States. And they use their minions, the foreign ministers and the central bankers that they specifically indoctrinate into the system of Western ideology. So I just want you to just listen closely.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iorio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are, because if we look at the economic data, there's nothing to get excited about in that. So yesterday we saw some reluctance for the Bernanke Fed to expand their balance sheets and pump more money in. But the stock market knows that reluctance is totally different than not willing to do it at all. And that's why we saw oil implode and gold trade off heavily, because they're not a protected class. If the stock market starts trading off in the 10 to 15 to 20% area, the chairman's going to come in and throw some stimulus at it. So to answer your question, we are absolutely simply slaves to central banks.
Did you understand it? Did you comprehend what these people were talking about? They were talking about gold. They were talking about, yes, we are slaves. Now, again, I want you to understand something. These individuals that you're watching on television are a mouthpiece for the global banking system. They work for the global banking system. But they are explicitly explaining to you, yes, we are indentured service. We are slaves to these individuals. You might not have on chains. You might have freedom of movement to be able to get in your vehicle, go out to the restaurant, but you are a perpetual slave. And this is what they've put us under. This is what happens when you emasculate an entire planet and you allow a small group of men, and explicitly white European men who've conquered and colonized the planet, and they've implemented this. See, we think that imperialism and global racism ended. It never ended. What they did was just retreated back behind their borders. But what they left after colonizing in the imperial system, they left in place their ideology, their global banking system. And they've allowed a small group of individuals from each region of the planet to make you think that you are in control. So you might have elections and you might really think that you are affecting change by putting individuals in. These individuals always will be puppets. You cannot, and I'm going to say it and I'm going to repeat this, you cannot have a system that was designed by your colonizers, by your slave owners, your slave masters. You cannot maintain that system because it was never designed for those indigenous people. See, we are still under the system of legal sharecropping. See, now the sharecropping has been expanded globally. Whether you're on the continent of Africa, Asia, South America, North America, you're in Europe, you're in Australia. It doesn't matter what continent you're on. You're under the same system, which is why the central bankers make sure that they give zero interest rates to those that run the corporations. But then they loan the money to the governments. And this is what's fascinating. And then they loan the money to the governments, but they put interest on it. Now the corporations get to borrow the money at 0%. But they loan the money to governments. Now I want you to understand, the governments don't have to use these central banks. They can create their own currency. But say under white supremacy, that's a no-no. That's signing your death warrant. That is signing your death warrant. A la Saddam Hussein. You remember? He decided to dump the US dollar, to go along with the euro, to do his petrol trade. He's gone. Now you have Maduro in Venezuela. He's trying to matriculate himself out of this system too. And as you can see, the United States would refuse to allow that, which is why they're enforcing the Monroe Doctrine. But see, these guys are on the television and CNBC, they are explicitly telling you, you are slaves. And they're telling you, put your money behind gold, something that you can hold. Now I want you to understand something. There's only like $8 trillion worth of gold on this planet. See, the rest of the gold that they try to sell you are certificates. And the central bankers know this, which is why they keep pumping up the gold market. Now, they sell you a certificate while they basically are buying that physical gold. So you have China, and you have Russia, and you have India. They're consuming all the gold on the planet because they know what's getting ready to happen. So while we are sitting here thinking that these US dollars are really meaningful, and while they're forcing the rest of the world to continue to keep using this piece of paper, other nations on this planet are going away from that. But as of right now, in the system that we live under, the central bankers have us by the balls. And I mean proverbial balls. Which is why you can't run anything. Your schools are being ran down. Right now, they just released the article where it was talking about the housing market is at the highest it's ever been. The average home is $300,000. While they simultaneously telling you, again, all of this information that they give you is the United States. Their information. I'm going to say it again. The average home right now in the United States of America is $300,000. $300,000. But you got half of the population that makes less than $35,000. Now, when I say half of the population, I'm talking in excess of 30 million people. Yet, the stock market is over 20-something thousand points, while the average person makes less than $30,000 a year. Now, you do the math. So while we tell our kids, go to school, get your education, we keep sending them down that rabbit hole. And then we get upset because they don't have a job. They back at home living at us. Why you don't get your ass up on out of here? Why you here? Go find a job. But daddy, man, hey, daddy, it's hard out there. Ain't no jobs out there. Well, what you got that degree for? Well, daddy, hey, they tell me I need experience. And then when you do get your foot in the door, 9 times out of 10, they laying you off. Why? Because they don't want to make sure you get any benefits. So your 401k, you don't have no money in your 401k because you still paying off them student loans. If you do have an apartment, you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 a month for it. So by the time the end of the month comes, you're still back at that same spot. And don't forget, these people garnish and will garnish your wages to pay off that student loan. But I want you to understand something. The central banks are giving the money freely to Amazons of the world, to the Microsofts of the world, to the Intels, to the General Electrics. They're giving their money to them for free at 0% interest. I want you to understand something. They are still under the policy of a zero interest rate policy. The banks and the corporations get to borrow the money at 0%, which is why you see constant mergers and acquisitions globally, and specifically in the United States of America. Specifically in the United States of America, there are constant mergers and acquisitions. These corporations get to borrow the money at zero. Bob, every other mom and pop, every other corporation, you're basically right now back where everything is a monopoly.
The dark brown shades of my skin only add color to my tears. Oh, that splash against my hollow bones that rocks my soul. Looking back over my false dreams that I once knew, wondering why my dreams never came true. Is it because I'm black? Somebody tell me, what can I do? Oh Lord, oh, something is holding me back. Is it because I'm black? Yeah. In this world of no pity, I was raised in the ghettos of the city. Yeah. Oh Lord. Mama, she worked so hard to earn every penny. Yeah, yeah. Oh Lord, something is holding me back. Is it because I'm black? child stealing his first piece of candy and got caught peeping around life's corner somewhere. I got lost. Oh, something is holding me back. I wonder, is it because I'm black? Oh, somebody tell me, what can I do? Will I survive or will I die? Keep on holding me back. Keep on holding on. Keep on picking on me. Oh, keep on holding me back. Keep on holding on. Keep on holding on. You're holding me back. I wonder why you do me like that. But you keep on holding me back. Keep on putting your foot on me. But I've got to break away somehow and someday. 'Cause I want to be somebody so bad, so bad. I want to be somebody. I want to be somebody so bad. You see, I want diamond rings and things like you do. And I want to drive Cadillac cars. Oh, I want to be somebody so bad. But you keep on putting your foot on me. And I believe I can break away and be somebody somehow in some way. You see, I heard somebody say one time, you can make it if you try. Oh, and some of us, we're trying so hard. We're trying so hard. I want you to know that I don't speak for myself, but I speak for y'all too right now. You see, if you're half white, light brown skin, or high yellow, you're still black. So we all got to stick together right now. This I want to say to you, my sisters and my brothers. Right on, sister. Right on, brother. Dig this. If we keep on pushing on, oh, we got to make it a little bit further. We got to make it a little further. All we got to do is try, try, try. And some of us, we're trying so hard. We're trying so hard. We're trying so hard. We're trying so hard to be somebody. We're trying so hard, although they're holding us back. And that's the reason that they're doing us like that. You know what? It is. I believe it's because we're black. But hey, we can't stop now. We can't stop now. We got to keep on